What is repetition? Repetition of set of statements in a program is made possible using looping construct. With every iteration of the loop, the control variable checks whether each of the values in the range have been traversed or not. It's going to generate a list from 0 up to 9 and excluding the last value. That is the definition of range function. Dear students, welcome to Computer Science classes. I am Ravi Kumar KR, lecturer in Computer Science, Vidhyaashram PU College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. Students, let us start our discussion with the chapter 6, Flow of Control. So, in this session, we are going to talk about another type of selection statements, that is repetition, and under that, there are two types of repetition statement. One is for loop or while loop, and break and continue statements, and nested loop. These are the topics to be covered in this session. So let us start with the repetition statement. So what is repetition? As we know, in general, repetition is nothing but doing the same work again and again. So for example, I am going to write assignment for 5 times. So writing the same work, same thing again and again is called repetition. For example, I want to print the name 5 times. I want to print my name 5 times. Print the name first time, then second time, third, fourth and fifth. So here that is the meaning of repetition in general. So with respect to programming concept, so what is repetition? So another name of repetition is called iteration. So another name for repetition is iteration. So what is repetition? Repetition of set of statements in a program is made possible using looping construct. So in the previous example, we have learned different programming construct or statements. So now this is another set of statement, another concept in programming where the programmer has to repeat the same set of statements number of times depending on their application or the program. So in that situations, we are using repetition statements in programming. So there are two types of repetition. So another name is called looping construct. Another name for repetition, we also say it is a looping construct or looping statements. So in Python, it supports there are two looping structures. One is for loop, second is while loop or while construct. So these two are for repetition of statements again and again for limited number of times in programming concepts. So now let us see what is the definition of what is for loop or for statement. So here the for statement is used to iterate or repeat over a range of values or a sequence. So in repetition concept, the user must be aware of 3 things. One is, first of all, we should know the starting value and the last value or the end value, as well as the in between the range of values or the difference between the two numbers. For example, in general, suppose I want to print numbers from 1 to 10. If I want to print numbers from 1 to 10. So here, what is 1? 1 is your starting number, and this is your last number or ending number, and in between after 1 the sequence, whether I would like to print 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in this example, after 1 I would like to print 2, 3, 4 up to 10. So here 1 after 1 it is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 1 is 4. So here there is a difference of plus 1 between these two numbers. So in programming concepts, so with respect to repetition of statements or looping structures, the user must be aware of the 3 concepts, like the first one is starting number and the last number or the last value, in between the difference between these two numbers. So these are the numbers, 3 values should be aware of while working with the repetition of statements. So similarly, here the for statement you iterate over a range of values or in a sequence. So here the for loop executed for each the item in the range. So suppose if I talk, what is the meaning of range here? In the example, if I say 1 to 10, so that is the range. So from starting number 1, last number is 10, between 1 to 10 is the range of numbers. So these values can be either numeric or they can be elements of data type like string, list or tuple. So the for loop, it can be used not only with the numbers, it is also possible to work with strings. You know what a string? It is nothing but a group of characters, and list as well as or tuple. Now let us see the syntax of for loop. The syntax for loop is it goes like this. For is a reserved word, and here is the for condition variable. So this is a condition, and in is a reserved word, sequence or items in a range. So these are the, and here is the colon. So this is the syntax of this, and after that we say statements inside the body of the loop. Means here these are the statements to be repeated for number of times. So this is, or you say, a block of statements to be repeated. So this is the syntax of for loop. Now in the next slide, with every iteration of the loop, the control variable checks whether each of the values in the range have been traversed or not. So how the for loop is going to work here? So here, for every iteration or every loop, so it's going to check for the condition. So if the condition it is true, it executes the statements or block of statements. So once the condition fails, it will comes out of the for loop. Or in other words, we can say it's going to execute when all the items in the range are exhausted or till the last element. The meaning of the sentence here is going to execute or repeat the statement till all the values in the range are exhausted. The statement within the loop are not executed. So this is the how. This is where the for loop is going to stop. So it's going to repeat the statement till the end of the range given in the list. Now the control is then transferred to the statement immediately following the for loop. Once all the values in the given list are traversed, here we use the word traverse, means use or printed or print, then is going to execute the statement after the for loop. So this is how the for loop works. So I repeat once again. So here how is going to execute here? So the for loop used to execute the statement, repeat the statement within the range of values. So this is the range of values, and at every time is going to check the condition whether the values are given within the given range. So, and how long is going to continue? In the example is going to continue as long as or it reaches the last element in the given range. Once the last element is reached, then it comes out of for loop and it executes the statement after for loop statement. So this is how the for loop works. Now look at the example here. Now I want to print the characters in the word Python using for loop. So it's a for loop. Now normally you say for, how to use this here? For letters. Letter is the variable or identifier. In is the reserved word Python. So this is a string. As we have seen in the previous definition, for loop we are using it. It works with the even strings, tuples or list. In this example, for letters in Python, so letters are nothing but the variables. So you say print letter. Print letter. So as per the syntax, so this is the given string. So this is the range. So accordingly, it's going to print all the characters one by one, and every time is going to check for the condition. For example, so output of the program statement would be, say in the range, the first letter is P, is going to print P. Then again it checks for the condition or within the whether the string is exhausted or not. If it's not exhausted, it's going to print the next character is Y, next one is T, H, O, N. So it's going to print like this with the help of for loop. So normally if you write the word, suppose in general programming statement, suppose if I say the programming statement letter equals within the quote, if I say Python close the single quote here. Now if I use the statement print, print, and here if I say letter, this is the variable. So if you give the statement like this, you will get the output as single string python. Now, what is the difference between these two? If you observe the difference between these two output here, so this is without using for loop. So here this is only one variable, one string variable here or string value. So it is going to consider as entire string as one value. So but with the help of for loop, so it is first is going to check the values in the given range, that is from P to N within the given string. So it checks for the first variable or a first character, it prints, then checks for the second one and goes on. So this is called iteration. So this is one iteration, second iteration, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So this is going to continue till it reaches the end of the given range. So this is how for loop works. In the next slide, we will see another examples to print given sequence of numbers using for loop. Now consider the example. So here count is a variable. So this is a given list. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Now we are using the for loop for num in count. We are using the variable count here. Count print num. So in this example, print num is going to print all the values in the given list. So one by one. So accordingly, first one is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So when it's going to print 10, this is one iteration, second, third, fourth, fifth. So it's going to print till it reaches the last element of in the given list. So this is how the for loop in this example. Now look at another function. So next one is range function. So this is another programming function, inbuilt function in Python, that is range function. So what is range function? So the range function is a built-in function in Python, and syntax of range function is range bracket, this is a starting value, stop value, and step 1. So this is what I have told you in the beginning of the first slide here. In the first slide, I had explained you about whenever we are using repetition of statement, the user must be aware of the three concepts or three things like starting value, end value, and the difference between these numbers, that is nothing but step value. So this is +1. So this is the same syntax we are using here in range function. So the starting value, last value, and step value. Step value in the sense the difference between two numbers. So it is used to create. So what is use of range function? It is going to create a list. It is going to create a separate list containing sequence of integers from the given start value up to stop value. So the loop, the function starts from start value up to stop value, and it by excluding stop value. It is not going to print the last one, excluding the last value, stop value, with a difference of given in the step value. So this is how the range function works. So the function range, start, stop, steps are parameters. These are called parameters of the range function. Now let us see the example here. Now in this here, start and stop are not mentioned or specified, means there are different methods to use range functions. So one of the method is this one here. So list range of 10. So this means we are going to generate a list of 10 numbers. In this example, there is no starting value and stop value. So, but in general, by default, it starts with 0 and it takes 10 as the last number. So, it's going to generate a list from 0 up to 9 and excluding the last value. That is the definition of range function. Now look at another example. Here, range of 2, 10. So in this example, the first parameter is for start, this is for stop, and in this, the next step, that is step value, is missing here. In this example, by default, it takes a step value as 1 or plus 1. So accordingly, starting with 2, it is going to generate a list from 2 up to 9, excluding the given value 10. So this would be the output of this statement, range function. Next one is step value is 5. Now look another format of using range function. List range of 0, 30, 5. So if you look at the syntax of this, 0 is starting value. This is the last value or stop value. This is the step value, means difference between two numbers. So accordingly, from 0 plus 5 is 0. First is 0, then step of 5, 0, 5, again plus 5 is 10, 15, 20 and 25, and 25 plus 5, 30. It is not going to print 30 because it is excluding the last value. So this is the example for range function. In the next slide, we will see the another type of looping structure that is called while loop. So the while statement execute a block of code repeatedly as long as the control condition of the loop is true. So here in the while loop or in the while construct, the statements are repeated or a block of statements are repeated as long as the condition is true. The control condition of the while loop is executed before any statement inside the loop is executed. So it's going to check for the condition at the beginning. After each iteration, the control condition is tested again and the loop continues as long as the condition remains true. So here, as we are seen in the for loop, here at every iteration, every loop or every cycle, it's going to check for the condition, and if the condition it is true, it continues to execute the statements. And how long is it going to continue? As long as the condition it is true. So when the condition fails, the control comes out of the while loop or while construct. Next, when this condition becomes false, when the condition false, the statement of the body of the loop are not executed. It's not executed, and the control is transferred to the statement immediately following the body of the while loop. So once the condition fails, it comes out of the while loop and executes the statements after while loop. Now in the next slide, see the syntax and examples. So this is the while, this is the condition, colon, body of the while loop. So as per the definition, first we check for the condition. If the condition it is true, it execute the statement or block of the statements, and if a condition fails, its case comes out of while loop. Now look at the example here. To print first 5 natural numbers using while loop. Now at the beginning, we say count equals to 1, and this is while count less than or equal to 5. So here, this is the condition, while condition. If condition is true, what to be done here? We have to print count, then count equal to count plus 1. We have to increment the count value. So this is another important statement here. We have to increment the value. So here, accordingly, what is the output of this? So count equal to 1. First time, what is the value of count? 1 is check for the condition first time. 1 is less than or equal to 5. The condition is true. Accordingly, it's going to enter this loop, or it's going to print count. It's going to print value as 1 and increment the value of the count by 1. So it is nothing but count equal to count plus 1. So this is 1 plus 1, 2. It check for the condition. 2 less than or equal to 5, condition is true, it prints the value 2. Then again 2 plus 1, in here 2 plus 1 it becomes 3, 3 is less than 5, condition is true, it is going to print the value 3. So again similarly for 4 and even for 5. So after printing the value 5 here, now it increments the value of the counter by 1, so it becomes 6. So once the value of the count becomes 6, it check for the condition. So 6 less than or equal to 5. No, condition fails or false here. In this example, it will not execute this. So it's not going to print the value 6. It comes out of while loop, means control will transfer to after the while loop is going to transfer the next statement after while loop. So it's going to stop at the value 5 in this example. So this is how the while loop works. Now look at our next statement is break and continue statement. These two are the statements. So now let us see the definition of break and continue statement. So in certain situations, when some particular condition occurs, we may want to exit from the loop or nothing but comes out of the loop, or skip some statements of the loop before continuing further in the loop. In some other examples, see, if I want to start the loop, for example, I want to repeat the statement 1 to 10 or 10 times. So after executing the looping structure for 5 times, I would like to come out of the loop, means I don't want to execute another 5 times. That is one example. In some other example, while continuing the loop for 10 times from 1 to 10, after executing first 5 times, so next iteration, that is 6th iteration, I don't want to execute that. So in that case, I want to skip the 6th iteration and I want to execute the 7th iteration. In these two examples, I can make use of one for break and continue statement. That is the definition given over here. So these requirements can be achieved by using break and continue statements respectively. Now let us see the definition of break statement. So what is break statement? The break statement alters the normal flow of execution as it terminates the current loop and resumes execution of the statement following the loop. So what is the use of break statement? The break statement is used whenever the controller execute the break statement or encounter the break statement, so it immediately stop executing the statement and is going to terminate the for loop, or it is going to terminate the statement. In that way, the control comes out of the looping structure. That is the definition of break statement. So look at it now. Look at the example here. Now take the example here for I in range 5. Say I want to generate a list with the help of range function from 1 to 5. In that example, if I equal to 3, I want to say break print I. See, this is a programming statement. Now you know how for loop works. First check for the, this is the last range is 5, last number is 5, starting with 0. So first it is start with 0, 0. If condition means 0 is equal to 0, no, condition fails, it will not execute this statement. It print I, means it's going to print 0. Next, afterwards, next one is after 0, it is 1. 1 is equal to 3. No, it's not going to execute this. It print Y, that is 1. Next one is 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2. Here 2 is equal to 3. No, condition fails. It will not execute this statement. It's going to execute this statement. Accordingly, it's going to print value of Y, that is 3. It print 2. Next, when after printing the 2, next iteration 2 plus 1 is 3. When 2 plus 1 is 3, if 3 here 3 is equal to 3, yes, condition is true, then it execute break statement. So once the controller or the interpreter execute this statement, immediately is going to terminate the loop. Means it will not execute the remaining number of iterations continuously. So it will stop executing the loop and comes out of the for loop in this example. So that is the use of break statement. So it will not once the break statement is executed within a loop, so the further iteration is going to stop. So it's going to terminate the loop immediately and comes out of the for loop or any of the looping structure. That is break statement. Now let us see the definition of continue statement. So when a continue statement is encountered or executed, the control skips the execution of remaining statements inside the body of the loop for the current iteration only. For the current iteration and jumps to the beginning of the loop after next iteration. So if you look at the difference between these two, in continuous statement, whenever the continuous statement is encountered or executed, so it's going to skip only one iteration. So after skipping one iteration, again the control goes back to the iteration looping statement, the condition, and continue executing remaining iterations. So look at the example for this. So in the example, if you look at the same example, here if I equal to 3, for I in range 5, if I equal to 3, continue and print I. So in the previous example, we were using break statement. Now here we are using continuous statement. Look at the difference between these two. So at the beginning, first value is 0, 0 is equal to 3, no, condition is going to fail, it will not execute this statement. So it's going to print I, so it's going to print I 0. Similarly, after this 1 is equal to 3, now condition is false, it's going to skip the statement, it print I 2. Next iteration, next one is after 2, is going to print 2. After 2, 2 plus 1 is 3. So here 3 is equal to 3. Yes, in that case, it's going to execute the continuous statement. So according to the definition of continuous statement, so it's going to skip the iteration, means it is not going to execute the statement. Accordingly, it will not going to print the value 3 here. This means continuous statements, once the statement is encountered, executed, is going to skip the remaining statement after this only once. So after these statements are skipped, the control goes back to here, then the I value becomes 4. After 3 it is 4. In this example, 3 is not going to print because it's going to skip the iteration, and when the value is 4, then comes here, yes, 4 equals to 3, condition fails, it will not execute this, is going to execute this, accordingly is going to print I is 4. Is going to I is 4. So this is how the continuous statement works here. This is the difference between break and continuous statements. Now let us see the next definition is nested loop. So what is a nested loop? A loop may contain another loop inside it. So a loop inside another loop is called nested loop. So this is a nested loop, means one loop inside another loop. For example, one for loop inside another for loop. Or we can have while loop, inside that we can have for loop. Or we can have for loop, again have one more while loop inside. So a loop inside another loop is called a nested loop. Now, suppose I want to generate a pattern like this. Now, this is nothing but I want to get output like this. In this example, to get output like this, we had to make use of nested loops. Now look at the programming statements here. So here, first statement, enter the number to be generated, its pattern. So first one is user has to enter some numbers here. So then we see how we're using nested loop. So here, this is for loop, for I in range from I number 1 NUM, and this is plus 1 is the range of that number. This is for loop. Next, inside that I'm using one more for loop for j equal j in range of I, comma 1, it is plus 1, I plus 1. This is I plus 1. So next one is print j, comma end equals and print. So if you observe this, see this is one for loop inside this for loop. This is called nested for loop. So what is a for loop? What is nested loop? A one for loop inside another for loop is called nested loop. So to generate a pattern like this, we have to make use of nested loop. In this example, first you will get a message to enter a number to generate its pattern. Suppose if we enter the value as 5 as input, then you will get the output like this. So it is 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the value you have entered as input. So from here, you will get this thing in 5 different rows. In first row, only 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is possible with the help of nested loop. So what is nested loop? In this example, this for loop is inside another this for loop. It is called as nested loop. Students, so far in this session, we have discussed about another type of selection statement, that is looping structure. Under that, we have studied while loop, for loop, and along with that, break and continue statements, and also nested loop. We will continue our discussion in my next session. Thank you very much.